I am getting ready to grind down a door sill. It's a concrete sill. One end is about 5/8 of an inch higher than the other end. I keep pointing towards the door sill, which I'll show you guys. But 5/8 of an inch over a 16-foot span, that's a big difference. So I've got to correct that. My two options are shimming. Well, I guess there's three options. I could shim, I could grind one end down, or I could cut the concrete out on the sill area and re-pour leveler back in. Shimming 5/8 of an inch, in my opinion, is not feasible. It's not an option. That's way too large of a gap underneath the door, way too much of a chance for something to be off. So I'm really left with grinding or cutting it out and pouring leveler back in. So in some instances, I really like cutting it out and pouring leveler back in. Cutting it out is a lot of work. Cutting 6.5 inches or whatever it is by a length of 16 feet, that's a ton of work. And then you have to have the material to pour back in. You have to have form boards, you have to have the leveler, you have to have the water, you have to have the mixer, you have to have everything to do that. And I do that a lot. But this sill says to me, it speaks to me and says, I want grinded 5/8 or maybe half an inch on one end, and the other end maybe we'll shim up by the 16th to an 1/8 of an inch. I don't want to shim too much. And then because it's getting shimmed and because there's no overhang over the door, it will get a metal sill pan. But right now, I'll just go over the tools that I use for the concrete grinding. My first option is this smaller grinder with I think this is a 4.5 inch wheel on it. And if I come in here closely, you can see the teeth are pretty spaced. I have another wheel here. So on this one, the teeth are pretty spaced out. So it's really gonna grab a lot. This one, they're very close together. So if I just wanna fine tune something, this is the one I go for. And the other thing that's important about these wheels is that one is a bit bigger than the other. I think this is a 3.5 inch wheel and this is a 4.5 inch wheel. So this one can't get into as tight of a space as this one can. So just between these two, they have slightly different purposes. I will grab the next tool. Another option for the small grinder is a cutting wheel, a concrete blade. And I can use this if I have an area that's just really, really bad. I can also cut through rebar with this. Maybe it's not ideal, but it does work. So like on this particular door sill, there's actually rebar sticking up through it. It really feels like they forgot that a door was going here. And that happens all the time. So I have to have this blade, and it's pretty versatile in what it can do. I can cut metal with it, I can cut the concrete with it. It'll burn through wood. It's not great for wood, but it will do it. So this is another great option on the small grinder. Now I have the bigger grinder. I have the bigger grinder here and the smaller grinder here. So you can probably see they have quite the size difference. The motor on this one is just substantially larger. And this bigger one doesn't have speed control. The smaller one does have speed control. They're both from Makita. I've burnt one of these up. Actually, I've burnt a couple of these up. And these are the higher end ones. I think I pay like $350 or $400 for them, and I burn them up every now and then. They just get used so often. This one is, in my opinion, a lot less likely to get burned up. It's much larger, so I have a couple blades for this one, or maybe not blades, but discs, wheels. Again, this one has teeth spacing that's pretty wide, and this one has teeth spacing that's pretty tight. So this one's gonna remove a ton of material. This is a 7-inch wheel, and this one is also a 7-inch wheel, but the teeth spacing is so much closer, it's just not gonna grab on. It's just like your circular saw blade. Your demo blade, the teeth spacing is pretty far apart, like maybe 24 teeth per 7.5 inch blade, or 7 1/4. and your fine finish blade, your plywood blade, maybe has 80 teeth. I mean, it's gonna have a lot more teeth on it. So when I need to take off 5/8 of an inch material of concrete that varies over a 16-foot span, this is what I'm going to as my first tool. The smaller grinder could come in later as needed, but this is my first tool for sure. Another tool is the chisel, and you just hit this end with a hammer, and this will be great for those really tight areas that none of the grinding wheels can get into. So when I'm using this thing, put my hand here, hit it with a hammer on the backside, I feel like I'm creating a sculpture in grease. Not really, but you get the idea. This tool is awesome as well. My other tools are the lasers. This one is green. You can see it there on my shirt. This one's green, so it actually shines a bit better in bright situations. You can see it a little bit better. This one is red. You can see it there on my shirt, and it doesn't shine as far. It's not as easy to see in bright situations, but I like having both of them because if I walk up on a door sill that's 5/8 of an inch out of level, maybe my bubble level is wrong. Maybe my first laser level is wrong. But if I get a third level out and it's 5/8 of an inch out of level, I can be certain that that sill is 5/8 of an inch out of level. My tools aren't the problem. So that's key to me, is having two lasers, because one can go out of level. And if you spend half a day setting your sill up perfectly to match that out of level laser, you've just screwed yourself. So two lasers, a normal bubble level. One thing about these that I'm always careful of is the video's not going to pick it up, but they tend to never be perfectly straight. I also beat the crap out of them. I use them and shimmy them back and forth on the concrete, and that wears the edges down. But I do that so I can see high spots in the concrete. And so anyway, I beat the crap out of them. I can't rely on them to be perfectly straight. One side is always concave and one side is always convex. So I can look down it and see which side is convex and concave. And I've been doing this long enough with enough practice that I can actually use that to my benefit, the concave versus the convex. The concave side gets used quite a bit. And so anyway, levels. So I could use a Stabila. I could spend a ton of money on a Stabila, if I'm saying that correctly, but it just simply doesn't make sense to me the way that I use them. As a framer, absolutely, go get one of those nice levels. But for me, working on concrete mostly, with the bubble levels, having that expensive level just doesn't make sense to me. I'm gonna beat it up and I'm gonna wear it out, and that's a lot of money to wear out quickly. So these aren't too bad. I get them at Home Depot, not too expensive. Another tool I use is a smaller bubble level. This guy is great for making sure the sill is level from interior to exterior. I can do it with the lasers, and I absolutely will and do, but this guy is so precise with its bubble. I can't get it as good with the lasers. I can't. So this guy is really nice for perfecting that interior to exterior. You never want the interior to be slightly lower than the exterior because that invites water. You always want the interior of your sill slightly higher or perfectly flat, perfectly level with the exterior. That way water goes to the outside, and if it's perfectly flat and you've done a good job putting sealant down or you have your metal sill pan, the water can't come in, and even though it's flat, the only place that it would have to go is out. But if it's tilted back, there's a chance water's gonna come in. Tape measure, everybody knows what that's used for. Mask. Concrete dust is really bad for you, and honestly I probably breathe more than what I should, but I do always wear some sort of mask. N95 mask, this actual respirator really important when you're doing concrete work. Most guys I see don't wear any sort of respiration. They just take their shirt, they put it up over their face, and I don't know. I think it's going to cause issues later in life. And even if it doesn't cause issues later on in life, it's gross. Like that evening, like your face is just all stuffed up and you can't breathe and your throat's all dry and you're coughing. It's just not even fun. So that doesn't work for me just for that simple reason. So bad for you later in life? I don't know. Probably silica dust. But even that evening, this is great for even that evening. So I'll get into the actual grinding. I'm going to try to walk through that process. I think I'm going to do a little bit of shimming. We will seem to have lost my microphone cover. It made me look like I had a nipple. We will hopefully shim a little bit, but I've got to flatten the whole thing out. It's a foundation wall. They forgot a door was going here, so it's rough. But we'll make it good. Some other pieces that I use are, I use zip tape actually as a shim. It's not quite a 1/16 of an inch, not quite a 32nd of an inch. It's somewhere in between, but when it's squished down with some weight on it, I think it's closer to a 32nd of an inch. So I use this because I have 16th inch shims, 1/8 inch shims, and 1/4 inch shims, color coded. So it makes it really easy to know what I'm grabbing. I don't have to measure each one, but yeah, zip tape. And then these 3 types of horseshoe shims, that's what I use when I'm shimming. I try to be within a 32nd of an inch. Most door manufacturers say 1/8 of an inch. I've learned that that's not, it doesn't work. It has to be much better than that. Will the door physically operate at 1/8 of an inch? Sometimes, not always. But does it look good? Does it function well? Never. I don't think so. Never really. So shims and caulking really doesn't matter at all at this stage what caulking I'm using. I'm just simply gluing the shims down. And I'm not worried about waterproofing underneath of them because they're getting a metal sill pan on top. I take that back slightly. I am worried about just continuous caulking underneath them. I'll try to explain that. By continuous caulking underneath my shims, say that this is the interior side of the shim. So it's going to sit like this. My door sill is over here, my exterior is over here, my interior is over here. I want the caulking that I glue down on this shim to be continuous. I want it to be completely continuous through here. I want it to squeeze out on this end and squeeze out on this end when I push the shim down, because water is really impossible to get under there if I've got a metal fin, a metal sill pan that's flashed over the edge. I don't see how water could ever get in there, but air could, and bugs could. On my own house, the people that installed the door, they didn't caulk under it very well, and we were just getting bugs coming in right underneath their door. So continuous bead of caulking right under the shim. And disclaimer on my house about my door is that it was installed before we moved in. I didn't hire other people to install my own door in my own house. But caulking, shims, and here's the door sill area here. You can see that it is just a foundation wall. They did not remember that a door was going here. They've got rebar in here as well. Now I know it needs rebar, but I can't set a door on top of rebar that's sticking up, so I have to cut that out. But this is the low end over here. This is the high end over there. And even on the low end, I can't just shim this and then set a door on top of it. It's very rough. It's not smooth at all. So this is the interior slab, and it's pretty smooth. I could set a door on this, but I can't set a door on this foundation wall the way it is. So because I can't set a door on the foundation wall the way it is. That's why I have to grind it down. Like I said, cutting it out would be a potential option, but I'm opting to grind it out. And I guess now I'm going to have a little bit of fun and go through the process. My first step with this is just getting to some baseline. Because it's so rough, I'm just going to go ahead and grind it down to get it to a baseline so that I can even measure to it and mark it. So I am actually going to grind the low spot some just to surface it, just to resurface it. I have to do that anyway so that I can put shims on it and have it actually seal well. But that's my very first step. So I don't have the laser going right now. I'm not making perfect measurements. I'm just simply surfacing it so that I can really see where it's at. Are shorts really a terrible option? Tennis shoes? Yeah. Do I really care? No. Could I get injured? Yeah. I guess I could get a rock or a piece of metal or something in my leg, but I don't know. So everybody that wants to hate on me for it, I guess go ahead. But anyway, I've got this surfaced. Really hard to see. The house inside just got its drywall sanded. All the drywall got installed and sanded, so I'm not filling the wall. Like if there is some dust getting in, it should be pretty minimal with the plastic over it, but there is some getting in. The house is filled with debris from all the drywall sanding. So, but yeah, now I'm at least to the point to where I can mark this out. I have it all marked out now, and I didn't do too many marks, but I did enough. So this is reading off of the laser, and I've got 1/16 inch there. I've got it being a little bit over a 16th of an inch there. I've got it being a little bit under 0. I've got it being a little bit over 3/16 of an inch there. I've got it being over 5/16 of an inch here. I'm at 9/16 of an inch here. And then right here, I'm right on at 1/4. So it's really not lovely to work with. The 9/16 and in one spot and under 0 in another. So that's your 5/8 of an inch. I can't shim that much. Still considering cutting it out and pouring in, but I think grinding is still the option because even cutting it is a ton of work. So keep on grinding. well. That took a little bit more work than I really was hoping it would. It was kind of difficult. The middle of the sill area dipped more than I realized. And so I stuck with my grinding and shimming method, but there were thoughts of switching to cutting it out, pouring it back in. But I don't necessarily like that option a lot of times because when the concrete is whole and I haven't cut it out and I haven't poured anything new in, it's a whole piece of concrete. It's solid concrete. When I cut it out and I pour something new in, it's two pieces of concrete. So I don't love that. But when it's planned and we're using leveler as the plan, then leveler is great. But anyway, show you what I've got here. So I really struggled with the wind quite a bit in this corner here. I did get some concrete dust in the house, just a little bit on the inside right in there. You can kind of see it in there. So really it actually did quite a bit better with the concrete dust than I thought I would. But anyway, this ended up being the same as that side over there. I had to grind this corner down and grind that corner down over there. And then I had to shim, and this is my 32nd. This is my 16th. This is my 8th. This is my what 3/32? No, 5/32. That's my 5/32. This is my 3/16. 3/16 quarter plus a 32nd. So then over here I did a quarter and a 16th. I don't know if you can see the blue under there. So right here I ended up at 5/16. And we go along. So right here ended up being 5/16 lower than the two ends after grinding a considerable amount out. The other thing I did is I went ahead and I marked where the back edge of the sill is going to go. And I do believe that I'm going to have to add some additional support out here for the sill. Reason being, I'll go over here. This happens all the time and it's super frustrating. But if you can see here, we've got the 2x6. Here's the back edge of my sill. And then this is what the nail fin is going to sit on. And yes, it is kind of split apart, but it'll get taped over and sealed. But anyway, the nail fin is going to sit on this edge right here. And so that's a 1/2 inch of no support. So I do think that I'm going to add something there to help support that. And under all the shims, before I put the shims down with the caulking, I took my metal brush and me and the brush. How about that? Me and the brush. Sanded, scraped, whatever, this so that it was nice and clean before putting the caulking down. This was a bad one to choose to be on my own. Thought it wouldn't be bad. It's not that big of a door when it's an Anderson. I've done a lot of them, so don't even need to look at the instructions. Just know what to do. And so thought that this would be a simple one, but this concrete has been awful to work with. You just watched me add a support to the exterior of the sill. I used some AZEK and some Tapcon bolts. I've used angle aluminum before. I've used the brackets that Anderson supplies, but those take a long time to get. And I was just told about this door, I don't know, a few days ago, so no time to get the brackets in from Anderson. Aluminum supports probably would have worked all right, but the AZEK's going to be okay. So I can show you that. Here's the AZEK bolted to the outside, and like I said, the reason I'm doing it is because I need support out to the edge of the plywood. I need at least that much support, and then typically some more trim gets added underneath the sill once the door is installed. So there's all my shims. There's the AZEK board, and we come here, and you see the bubble is towards the back side. So that means that since the bubble is to the back side, the interior side, it's higher towards the interior side. That means that the sill is slightly sloped towards the outside. Now I can go ahead and make my sill pan. I couldn't make my sill pan before I had the AZEK installed because I didn't know the exact dimensions that I would need. Now I know the dimensions that I need, and I can make the sill pan. Go ahead and install it.